Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive.
Always ready to dive in.
Today, we're going to explore the incredible life of Malala Yousafzai. We'll be drawing from some excerpts from the show Influential Lives. Her story is, well, pretty extraordinary. We're talking about a young girl who faced some truly unimaginable challenges, all because she dared to advocate for education in a place where it was actively being suppressed.
Yeah, her story is one that really captures your attention. It's a powerful testament to courage and resilience.
Absolutely. And for anyone listening who loves a good learner story, this one is for you. You'll get a really insightful understanding of Malala's life and her incredible legacy. So to really understand Malala's journey, we need to go back to the beginning. She was born in 1997 in Mingora, Pakistan. In this region, it wasn't exactly a place where girls' education was celebrated. In fact, often it was discouraged.
It's hard to imagine growing up in an environment like that, but it's important to note that Malala wasn't alone in her passion for learning. Her father, Ziauddin Yousafzai, played a crucial role.
Oh, absolutely. You can't talk about Malala without talking about her father.
Right.
He was a teacher himself, right? And a huge advocate for women's rights.
He was. He instilled this deep love for learning in Malala, and he really fostered her belief that education was a fundamental human right for everyone, not just a privilege for some.
That's so interesting. It makes you think how much of her activism stemmed from her own personality, like this inherent sense of justice, and how much of it was influenced by how she was raised.
It's kind of a nature versus nurture question, isn't it? Hard to say how much each factor contributed.
Right. Like, could you separate those two things? But one thing's for sure, her conviction that education was a right, not a privilege, that was something she held on to from a very early age.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now we get to a pivotal point in Malala's life, and in the story of girls' education in her region. 2008, the Taliban takes control of her hometown. And guess what? They ban girls from attending school.
A devastating turn of events for so many.
Beyond just, not being able to go to school, what was the immediate impact of that ban? How did it change things?
Well, the ban was about much more than just keeping girls out of the classroom. It was a very calculated, deliberate attempt to control their future, limit their potential, even silence their voices. The Taliban, they understood very clearly that an educated girl, she poses a threat to their whole ideology.
Right, like they can't control someone who's thinking for themselves.
Exactly. And that's a force they could not afford to let loose.
So picture this. Malala is just 11 years old at this point. And what does she do? She chooses to fight back.
An incredible act of defiance.
Yeah, she starts writing a blog for the BBC. And she does this anonymously, detailing what life was like under Taliban rule. She's risking everything to advocate for herself and for other girls.
It's almost impossible to grasp the bravery that took. I mean, think about it. She's a young girl in this incredibly restrictive and dangerous environment, and she decides to speak out, to make her voice heard.
And the world started to listen. Her activism started to gain international recognition. But, with that recognition,
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a downside.
it painted a target on her back.
A tragic consequence of her bravery. That by standing up for her right to an education, she became a target of violence.
And then, on October 9, 2012, the unthinkable happened. A Taliban gunman boarded her school bus and shot her in the head.
A horrifying act of violence that sent shockwaves across the globe.
It was a moment that it went beyond just regional conflicts. It became this global symbol, a symbol of the struggle for girls' education everywhere. And, people all over the world were just holding their breath, waiting to see if she would survive. But this attack, the one that was meant to silence her, it just amplified her message.
Ironically, yes. And it sparked a movement, a global one for girls' education, in a way that nothing else had.
Governments were condemning the attack, activists were rallying, everyday people were moved to action. It really felt like a watershed moment,
It was. I mean, think about the global conversation at the time. Malala's story, her courage, it brought the issue of girls' education to the absolute forefront of international discourse. And it didn't just stop at COC. It prompted real action from world leaders and global organizations.
But at the heart of this massive global story was one girl and her unwavering spirit. And after months of recovery, Malala emerged even stronger.
Talk about resilience. It's a true testament to the power of the human spirit. And she didn't stop there. In 2013, she took another step. She co-founded the Malala Fund.
Right, a nonprofit organization dedicated to making sure that every girl has access to 12 years of free, safe, and quality education.
Exactly. It was a way for her to take her own experience and channel it into a powerful force for positive change.
It's really remarkable how she didn't allow that attack to define her. She used her platform to amplify the voices of other girls who were in similar situations and to advocate for real systemic change. And she wasn't afraid to speak on the biggest stages. She gave impactful speeches, including one at the UN on her 16th birthday.
Yeah, that speech at the UN was particularly powerful. It wasn't just about her story anymore. It was a call to action, a direct plea to world leaders, urging them to invest in education and to empower girls.
And then at just 17 years old, she becomes the youngest person ever to receive the Nobel Peace Prize.
Wow, what an achievement. That really solidified her place in history, didn't it? As this incredible symbol of hope, courage, and the truly transformative power of education.
It's easy to get lost in all the accolades and the global impact she's had, but one thing that really struck me was her humility. She still describes herself as just a girl with a book.
It says so much about her character, right?
Yeah.
And it really gets to the heart of her message. It's a reminder that even in the midst of these huge global movements and political debates, the core of this issue is about individual girls, their dreams, and their right to simply hold a book and learn.
Malala's journey shows us that courage doesn't have to be loud or flashy. It can be this quiet determination, a refusal to be silenced, a commitment to standing up for what you believe in, even when you're facing unimaginable adversity.
And that brings up a question for all of us listening. Inspired by Malala's story, what can we do? How can we contribute to making education a reality for every girl? It doesn't have to be some grand gesture. It can start small. Awareness, advocacy, even supporting organizations like the Malala Fund. We all have a part to play.
As we wrap up our deep dive into Malala's life, I want to leave you with one of her most powerful quotes. One child, one teacher, one book, one pen can change the world. What do those words mean to you? How can you, in your own unique way, be a part of that change?
A powerful question for us all to ponder.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
See you then.